of the U.S. National Championship. And what a way to kick off our first match. It is a matchup that is going to be absolutely critical in determining our champion this weekend. It is Lexi Livewire versus Icelander Stormbind. Of course, Michael Hamilton, reigning U.S. champion, famously did so with Icelander, turns his back on that hero, now presenting Lexi, trying to take down the arcane damage of Icelander. On the Icelander side, it is Sebastian Burnham going ahead and trying to take down the defending national champion. What a way to kick off round one of your U.S. Nats.
Yeah, this is one of the matches that I think we kind of expected to see quite a bit this weekend. Two of the most played heroes, two of the most powerful heroes, and it's the ones that we talked about at the start of the show, right? The two ice heroes.
Yeah.
Kicking it off here with ice card right off the bat.
Yeah, nice turn 0 here. We're going to get Insidious Chill down for Sebastian. That's going to be critical towards playing that longer game, setting up, challenging Michael Hamilton's hand at key moments. Looks like priority pass back to Michael Hamilton. Going to go ahead and try and get some of that turn 0 action himself with Voltaire and Instant. Going to go ahead and put a Falcon Wing into the arsenal. That's a nice one to go ahead and load up. Also gets the Endless Arrow ready to go.
Oh, very nice.
And that means Michael Hamilton now presenting a 6-card hand going into the very first turn of the game. So a strong start from Sebastian Burnham, but Michael Hamilton absolutely ready to answer and was not punished in the least for going ahead and activating that arsenal at end of turn.
That's exactly what you want to see from Lexi turn 1. As the Lexi player, you definitely want to, maximize the instant speed ability off of Voltaire, and like you said, set up a 6-card hand, especially when one of these arrows has go against. You can immediately clear that arsenal and continue your turn.
Falcon Wing, one of the unsung heroes, I think, from Outsiders, very much changed the way this Lexi deck was able to play, allowed things like that setup we just saw to happen a little bit easier. Going to come in for 3 on this first attack here. Just real quick, going through the equipment suite on the side of Michael Hamilton. Is reasonably prepared for this Icelander matchup. It's Shock Charmers and a Trench of Sunken Treasure as far as both Spell Void and AB goes. Then the traditional set of New Horizons Snapdragon Scalers ready to go. Warmonger's Diplomacy committed to defense here from Sebastian Burnham, often doing that role. And now we've
second Endless Arrow.
Endless Arrow, not bad. This one give and go again by that Voltaire, ready to return to hand should it hit. Already put in the blender. Welcome to U.S. Nationals against the national champion, Sebastian.
Endless Arrow is such a nasty card here because, coming in for 4, it's just a really, really nice break point, and you either, block it all out or you don't block it at all here, and it looks like that's the situation. It's like, hey, I'm not going to commit. Oh, we do have a committal.
Below, ready to go.
Yeah.
That's one of the cleanest blocks you can make off that Endless Arrow. So Sebastian with the right card at the right time, going to clean up the hand a little bit as well, putting the card on the bottom. Sebastian's side of the equipment suite. Again, pretty standard, I would say, at this point. See that Coronet Peak in the head slot. We got Iron Wrought Gauntlets, an unsung hero of the classic constructed metagame, but the best option for Icelanders in this spot. And then Tunic and those Storm Striders ready to go. Winter's Bite, follow up here for Michael Hamilton. Going to go ahead and clean up that combat chain.
Yeah, choosing to save the second Endless Arrow for a future turn. I really like this play, right? Not committing all of your cards all at once. Instead,
I think.
It looks like he's going to.
I think he's still loading up.
Okay.
He's just going ahead and resolving that Winter's Bite first, taking a card out of hand for Sebastian, making it more likely that this Endless Arrow is able to hit. Michael Hamilton demands a clean combat chain. He's by the book, flesh and blood player. You play an action, you go ahead and clean that up.
I appreciate that. And once again, Endless Arrow, an incredibly powerful card. It is one that you really don't want to let hit because it's just insane value. Coming back to your hand is so good, especially when you have Voltaire and you can use it twice per turn. It's great at ripping cards out of your opponent's hand. And it looks like this time it's
headed right back to hand
hit.
here. Yep, nice and clean.
With a card in hand, it looks like he's going to just arsenal and pass on up.
Yep, makes sense. Was out of action points there. That one, of course, was in Arsenal, so I had to go ahead and fire it. Didn't want to use the Snapdragon Scalers quite yet, holding for a future turn.
Yeah, I think this Insidious Chill is going to come into play here. It's a card that, if you're not super familiar with Insidious Chill, it lets you basically remove one of those 3 counters on it when you fuse. And if you do, then the opponent has to discard a card unless they pay 2. And that basically just demands a card out of Lexi, which is what you want to do. It looks like Icelanders here, they're just going to Arsenal and pass, which is a reasonable play from Icelander, especially if they end up arsenaling a blue card.
Yeah. Icelander needs that arsenal to function. Just going ahead and activating Coronet Peak on the last turn. We do know the life totals are switched right now. It is Sebastian at 31, Michael Hamilton at 40. We'll get that straightened out for you as soon as we can. But now it's back to Michael Hamilton's turn. Will the onslaught continue? That endless arrow ready to do more work.
Endless arrow there is just kind of like it's just kind of like sitting there taunting.
Yep. And we're just doing a quick reset right now on those life totals. We'll get that all squared away. Things going basically how you anticipated this matchup to go early on, Kel?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
Icelander not really coming swinging out of the gates, setting up for the longer game. And I think that's kind of what you want to do here. Just kind of like survive the onslaught of arrows and set up to a position where you can really, really put Lexi off tempo and kind of gain some of that incremental advantage.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton, very much the progenitor of that style.
Yeah,
he knows what to expect. And I haven't seen enough out of this Icelander yet to determine whether this is a Michael Hamilton-esque Bullander build or a more arcane damage-focused build. I'm sure we'll sort that out as the game continues. But it looks like right now we're just getting these life totals squared away, and then we'll be ready to head back down to the feature match area. Again, promising start from Michael Hamilton. Still haven't seen any of those power cards. And, man, those power cards in Lexi are both multitudinous and among the best cards in the game. Of course, talking about Codex of Frailty, Three of a Kind, Rain Razors. There's just so many cards that can absolutely blow up your opponent out of nowhere. And I think that's where Lexi gets all of its consistency from.
Yeah, I mean, I entirely agree. As a Lexi player, you love it when you get your Three of a Kind Rain Razor's turn. It feels good. It definitely feels good.
Look, there's nothing wrong with power. You have to be able to live that power fantasy as a Flesh and Blood player. It looks like we had some struggles getting these life totals reversed. They're incorrect. Swap them around. Do it in your head. Sebastian Burnham at 26 life. Michael Hamilton has taken first damage of this match at 37 life.
Yeah, and you can see Michael is pushing just an absolute ton of damage here. We do see two of the more powerful arrows on the chain there with Endless Arrow and Remorseless, and it looks like they did push a little bit of damage through in the last couple turns. It looks like that is going to be the end of Michael's turn as he passes to Sebastian. We do see a Channel the Bleak Expanse as well. Looks like that one is just going to get cleared off, though.
Yeah, interesting. A card that, hasn't really had its moment in the sun thus far.
Yeah, I agree. Channel the Bleak Expanse is definitely one of the cards that, when you first saw it, you're like, hey, this seems pretty interesting. But like you said, didn't really see a ton of play. So it looks like we're going to see a Lexi activation, turning up an ice card in the arsenal and thereby giving a Frostbite token, which is nice. It's a nice little bit of value there, possibly slowing down what Icelander could do on this turn. Of course, Icelander being a very reactionary hero, and it looks like we might see a reaction here in response.
Yeah. Here's that Frostbite is still floating. Looks like Meredith Scolding going to be the pitch here. And it is time for our first Ether Ice Vein. It is going to be fused. That's going to activate the Insidious Chill. And here we start to see how this Icelander could come back into the game. I would say thus far, things feeling like all Lexi all the time. This type of turn, though, this sees us so much tempo from Michael Hamilton, representing a bunch of damage, a bunch of disruption. Everything that Icelander wants to do tied up in a nice little, honestly, single card package, just the fuse and the effect of the Insidious Chill ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that Aether Ice Veins is pretty rough. I mean, combined with Insidious Chill, like you said, I think the damage here is like, okay, it's fine, but the disruption is really, really what's going to hurt, especially since, Michael's going into this turn and, with a full grip, and he's like, hey, I can have an explosive turn, and Sebastian kind of answers that and says, you know what, I'm going to demand some cards out of your hand, and that's basically the goal here. Like, he's just like, I want cards from you. I want to slow your turn down as much as possible. So it looks like we do have, I think that is a blue pitch arrow.
Shot.
Yeah, paying for the Insidious Chill. And like this is the correct play. Instead of discarding it, you pitch it. You still have that resource floating there.
Yep. Also lets you do the same for that second trigger that you have to deal with, the Ether Ice Vein.
Yes.
Is going to pitch to that as well, it looks like.
Debating whether or not he wants to pitch yet another arrow here. Looking at Michael's hand, we can actually see that he does have a Searing Shot. And do you see what the middle card is? I can't quite tell.
It may be a Codex. I'm not 100% sure on that.
I want to say Codex. But I'm not sure here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if you have been disrupted, Codex is one of the best things you can possibly have. It's very, very good at rebuilding from absolutely nothing, both in terms of giving you an arsenal for a future turn and just producing some output on this turn. One of those power cards for Lexi. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not 100% sure on that Codex read. So we'll go ahead and resolve this Ether Ice Vein, that Insidious Chill effect, all that good stuff happening.
Sebastian also threw the Waning Moon at him, too, for an additional 3 points of damage.
Yep.
It looks like this one is this the...
This is a Withering Shot.
Yeah, this is the one that creates a Frailty token.
Correct. Withering Shot being fired off. Obviously, not the strongest arrow against Icelander, but still a fine piece of offense. No such thing as a bad arrow, really. They're all good arrows, Kel.
It's 6 damage. Hey, you know, when you don't have a great on-hit effect, you still have that 6 points of damage here.
Not bad.
And Sebastian, you know, takes the hit, goes down to 20, and you know what? That's a very safe hit to take because the on hit is not as powerful as something like you know, one that would generate like a inertia token, for example.
Yep, inertia, one of the worst effects you can bear as an Icelander. You really, really rely on setting up that arsenal across multiple turns, and Hamilton knows that, going to be looking to get that effect down whenever. And you kind of have to pick your spots if you're in Sebastian's side. When do you want to go ahead and eat that damage? You do want to do it on the least critical effects. You want to go ahead and eat a frailty token that isn't going to impact you in any way.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it against playing against Lexi, right? Because Lexi does have some very nice on-hit effects, and choosing when to take damage and when not to take damage is just very, very crucial into playing against her. And that was one of the, you know, times where, yeah, you know, you can take the 6 and, you know, come back with a turn or set up for a strong turn.
Yeah, it looks like the turn just going to head back to Michael Hamilton here. Going to go ahead and deploy that Winter's Bite from the arsenal. Winter's Bite red, I believe, so either going to cost 1 resource or a card from hand.
Yeah, this one is, you know, against Icelander doesn't feel as strong as against some other heroes because, you know, they can just pay for it and then use those floating resources to play, you know, their Waning Moon or whatever else they want to do for the turn.
Yeah, and in this case, Tunic ready to go. Tunic's going to go ahead and pay for that Winter's Bite cost. So really valuing cards in hand here is Sebastian Burnham. See a Searing Shot revealed by the Lexi ability. That's going to open up an additional arsenal slot for Michael Hamilton.
Ooh, here we have a Premeditate. Kind of one of the all-star cards from Outsiders.
Yeah, I haven't decided if this counts as one of the power cards in Lexi. This feels a little bit of a step below things like Codex of Frailty, 3 of a kind, but still a fearsome card in its own right.
Oh, it's great value. You know, you get that +3, you get that Ponder token on hit, and we have a big old 8 attack coming in.
Yeah, it looks like a Hamstring Shot going to be coming through, trying to go ahead and mess with Sebastian's next turn a little bit. And at this point, I don't think the on-hit matters all that much, but that damage is starting to matter. Of course, Icelander famously starting with a lower life total of 36. Remember, our life totals are reversed. So yes. Sebastian at 20 life, Michael Hamilton at 31. And Sebastian is just desperate to get Michael Hamilton into that danger zone. And when you're playing against Icelander, that danger zone's pretty big. If he's able to get Michael Hamilton down into that even like 11-ish, 12-ish range, things start getting very uncomfortable for Michael Hamilton. At 31, though, he's basically free to go ahead and do whatever he wants, look for as much offense as possible. Sebastian has to extend the game until he can get Hamilton into the danger zone. So a very, very critical decision here with an arsenal loaded up, a potential 5-card hand. I'm expecting a couple cards to come out and defend against this Hamstring Shot.
I mean, 8 damage when you're at 20 life is a lot, right? It's presenting almost half of your life here, and it's the kind of situation where, you know, you can't really just take the entire hit. It's just too much. But it looks like we are going to attempt to give a nice little Frostbite here.
No, this is a Blizzard out of hand.
This is Blizzard from hand. Okay.
Yeah, so more critical than the Frostbite.
And then we have the full 3 block
there. I think more critical than the Frostbite is that disruption, the potential to go ahead and steal go again. Now Hamilton did go ahead and pay for it, so is going to be able to fire off the Searing Shot from Arsenal, but kind of a low resource moment. However, still the looming threat of that Premeditate trigger, and that was a really big deal. It lets Hamilton go ahead and maintain the tempo, maintain another strong turn going into the next turn cycle. Should have an arsenal here playing at least a 5-card hand, and a good amount of resources depleted here for Sebastian. So unlikely to see a lot of damage coming out on the Icelander's turn.
Yeah, an important thing to note for folks who don't know the exact wording of premeditate, even though the hamstring shot didn't hit, the next attack did hit, thereby giving Michael Hamilton that ponder token.
Yeah, I think Sebastian wanted that cycle to go a little bit better. It's not like it was disastrous, was able to find some pretty good plays there, but ultimately you thought that Blizzard was going to do a little bit more to maybe give you some reprieve. Let Michael Hamilton have to spend a turn setting up. But Michael Hamilton right back at it with a 5-card hand one more time. Going to be facing an encase here from Sebastian. That looking to slow down Hamilton's next turn a little bit.
Yeah, we have this fused encase, which also triggers that Insidious Chill, which is going to demand a card out of Michael's hand. So yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this Insidious Chill is great playing the long game here, and Michael's just going to go ahead and discard the card to that Insidious Chill trigger.
Yeah, not wanting to go ahead and invest resources, telling you that maybe has plans for those resources on the next turn. And it looks like it's time to go ahead and break these Shock Charmers in case of emergency. AB1 plus Shock Charmers going to go ahead and prevent that on hit from in case Hamilton not wanting to lose access to his equipment on the next turn. Maybe a Snapdragon turn coming up. Maybe just thought it was the right time to go ahead and cash this in. Oh, and you see why now. Three of a kind. Very ready to go. It looks like one floating, so maybe a yellow Winter's Bite here. I wonder if Hamilton working with the full rainbow of Winter's Bites. We've seen that before.
I can definitely see that. Winter's Bite is one of those cards that just demands a card from your opponent. Obviously, 3 of a kind here is huge. Michael's going to be able to restock his hand and, go to town with his Voltaire. We do have a response here from Icelander, coming in with a nice little arcane damage and a frostbite. In an attempt to slow down this 3 of a kind turn, but drawing 3 cards here is going to give him a lot of resources to play around that frostbite.
It is an investment into slowing down this turn. It also, though, lets Hamilton know you're good to go, man. There's not a lot of defense available. 3 cards in hand. That doesn't line up all that well with Lexi's highest output turns. Let's see what Hamilton's able to piece together here. Is this going to be one of those big, explosive, go-wide turns? Perhaps disastrously something like an Endless Arrow at the end. Looks like I see a Drill Shot, an Infecting Shot, and I believe there is a Bolton Shot as well, if I'm reading the hand correctly. So maybe not the highest output. This Infecting Shot, though, does represent a lot of virtual damage by virtue of bringing that Blood Rot Pox along with it on the next turn. And we mentioned Sebastian's life total getting low. In fact, says, I need to go ahead and defend this. I can't afford the on-hit here. Is there a punish? It is the Drill Shot coming up as a follow for 5. These look very difficult to block. I suspect we're going to go ahead and see those Iron Rock Gauntlets shoved in here. Otherwise, their effectiveness is going to be severely blunted. However, at that point, you give up that Tunic block. So either way, Drill Shot really doing its thing. Oh, of course, piercing on the Drill Shot as well. So no Gauntlet's going to be committed. It is just going to be a clean bit of disruption here for Hamilton. Drill Shot showing its power in spades on this turn.
I would like to know that Drill Shot does not have piercing because it doesn't have an aim counter on it.
But
still going to push through that damage and that nasty on-hit effect like you were talking about, and exactly nullifying an entire piece of Sebastian's equipment. Those gauntlets are now more or less useless.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if he was supposed to shove the gauntlets and just put the counter on the Tunic at that case, maybe preserving some of that Tunic use for the later game, but we'll see how that decision pans out.
Yeah, and, Michael still, just being able to put in that Lexi pressure, right? Making very good use of those on-hit effects. Drill Shot, one of the arrows that I think is much better than it looks.
Oh, absolutely.
It does a virtual extra point of damage, and
another huge pickup amongst many huge pickups from outsiders.
Yes.
It is going to be Heatseeker fired off here via blue, and that means this is 100% a Snapdragon Scalar's turn. There's no way your turn is ending on this Heatseeker from Arsenal.
So I'm looking at Michael's hand, and it looks spicy. He has, I believe, a Rain Razors in addition to Bolton Shot.
Yep.
And that's, I do believe this is going to be a very, very high damage output turn from Michael. Sebastian, depending on what he has in his hand, this is a turn where, any amount of disruption could be very, very valuable here.
It's tough, though. There are 2 resources floating, and frankly, Hamilton's hand doesn't need a ton of resources to go ahead and get its job done. I think he could still cobble together a decent hand, even through a Frostbite here. So really looking for a strong piece of disruption is Icelander. Maybe a way to get that Insidious Chill going. would be a huge, huge benefit. Let's see what is in Arsenal.
Yeah, some effect that triggers the Insidious Chill while also giving a Frostbite token is likely the most ideal situation here.
This feels like a critical moment in the match. If Sebastian doesn't have a big play from Arsenal here, he's in a lot of trouble. And it looks like it is going to be an Ether Hail. So just representing damage thus far, it is going to bring that Frostbite with it critically. We'll see how much that slows Hamilton down. But no activation of that Insidious Chill, no other discard effects going on, just the Waning Moon coming through. And is Hamilton able to piece together some damage here? There's 2 cards committed to that Heatseeker block. Hamilton free to fire off the Rain Razors, pay for that Frostbite. That means the Heatseeker going to trigger on end step, leading to another juiced Arsenal. In addition to this Bolton shot being ready to go, going to be able to put Sebastian down to some absolutely terrifying life totals. This Bolton shot also offering a potential reload on this turn should it hit, which it is almost certainly going to do.
Huge Bolton shot.
I don't know what that arrow is, but if it's like a 0-cost arrow, this might be it for Sebastian. This game might actually end on this turn if things line up well for Hamilton. There is the Bolton shot reload. It is going to be a 0-cost drill shot. It is a blue. Maybe a saving grace for Sebastian at 2 life. Is he able to stay alive? Has to commit the Tunic here, it looks like.
Tunic and card from hand.
Yeah, it is going to be a full block here. Of course, no reason to keep that Tunic defense value around. Able to stay at 2 life, but that was a massive turn from Michael Hamilton.
I mean, going down to 2 against Lexi. Once again, the life totals are switched here. So Icelander is at 2 here, and going down to 2 is very rough, right? It's going to demand, your entire hand every single turn going this forward unless Lexi whiffs big on their draws. And with the Heatseeker on hit, getting that extra card into your arsenal, it's going to be pretty tough to whiff, to be honest.
And I wonder what's going on here. Did Hamilton not activate his Snapdragon skills?
Oh, interesting. So the Heatseeker was played from Arsenal without Voltaire, correct?
Correct. So it did not have go again. And from the beginning of the turn, I was saying this looked like a clear Snapdragon Scalers, and possibly just skip that step. We're going to see. Let this get unpacked.
I think we all, casters as well as players, kind of just assumed that the Snapdragons was being activated on this turn. And we went like 2 attacks past that, right? We did the Heatseeker into Bolton shot into that drill shot. So it looks like we're going to have a little bit of deliberation here among the players here. But either way you shake it, I think Icelander is in a pretty tough situation.
Yeah, Icelander looking to be in a somewhat lethal spot, frankly, if this turn proceeds the way it is supposed to. I am not sure what is the debate right now. I'm not sure if the Snapdragon Scalers was missed, if Hamilton's just going ahead and detailing exactly how the turn went.
I think that's what they're discussing right now. Perhaps it was a situation where Michael activated it and didn't put it onto the chain.
It sounds like the Snapdragon Scalers were, in fact, not activated in this scenario, and this is going to be, frankly, a huge misplay from our defending national champion. And, we've seen so much greatness from Michael Hamilton, we almost expect nothing but. He is human, though. I mean, these type of things do happen. I don't think there was any, malintent in Hamilton's play. We certainly read this from the beginning as a Snapdragon Scalers turn. And sometimes when you're just moving through the turn, you have it so rehearsed, you know exactly what you're going to do. Okay, I'm firing off this Heatseeker, time for Snapdragon Scalers, that's to follow up a Bolton shot. You just write it all out in your head, and then you have to actually do it. And that can be the really, really hard part of these things sometimes.
I've definitely had situations on stream where something like this happens to me, and it was like, oh yeah, I forgot to do the Snapdragons. I meant to do that, right? But that was in a very casual setting on, my own little live stream and not at the national championships. And so this is going to be an interesting call to see how it kind of shakes out between the players and also between the judges. Yeah,
we're going to let this all get sorted out. Of course, our talented judge staff will get to the bottom of it, understand exactly how this needs to be fixed, rewound, whatever the fix is in this case. Kel, let's talk about where this game goes from this point. We have 2 branching paths here. We don't know what's going to happen, how this is going to be ruled, if that Snapdragon Scalers is going to go ahead and extend the turn, or if the turn's just going to end.
Right.
I think either way, I like Hamilton's position in the matchup.
Yes.
I think he is doing what he needs to do, is getting further and further ahead as time goes on. And thus far, Sebastian not really able to find any damage. If you were on the Icelander side of things, how do you get purchase back in this matchup? And I'll be frank,
It's rough.
I've seen Icelanders do it. Like, you can absolutely pull a rabbit out of a hat when you were playing Icelander. No magician / wizard, pun intended. Though.
Right.
But we've seen them do it time and time again, where they're just able to find the correct disruption effects turn after turn after turn, get down to that critical window we've talked about so many times, and just steal the game with Stormstriders. Do you think there's a potential window here in this game to do that?
It's been really tough so far because I think Icelander did a really good job of setting up that Insidious Chill early, and I was thinking, like, okay, he's setting this up to, you know, have enough disruption to mess up Lexi's game plan, but really, Lexi, Michael, they've been able to kind of shrug it off.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think the cards have lined up properly.
Yeah.
The Insidious Chill triggers have not come at the correct time.
Yeah, and Michael's just had enough resources to just be able to, you know, pay for it all and not really have that, disruption. The disruption is not as disrupting as it needs to be, basically. And he can just take the damage. He's just like, I don't care. I just take the damage. I still have a pretty healthy life total. I'm over 20. I'm not in that kill zone area. I'm not really scared of the Stormstriders right now.
Yep.
And as long as he can keep that pressure up and keep chipping Icelander's health down, currently, we last saw 2, but even if we roll that back a little bit, still, like, dangerously low, right?
Yeah.
And Lexi is a hero that can just burst damage just out of nowhere. And we've only seen one Rain Razors played. We've only seen one.
There's a lot of good
one
cards
3 of a kind
left in the
played.
deck. There's all the Codex of Frailties like just ready to go. So there's a lot of aces up the sleeve there for Michael Hamilton. And let's talk a little bit about the deck building we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And I think the shift we're seeing is subtle. It's also not unheard of. It's something I've seen before. But we are seeing things like what I believe was a yellow Winter's Bite on a previous turn.
I think so.
We also saw what I believe is a blue Drill Shot to end this combat chain.
Yep.
I'm seeing this focus from Hamilton on having those resources, on not getting caught on those disruptive Icelander turns without resources. And frankly, Trench does a really good job of that as well.
Yes, for sure.
It's different than Tunic, where you really need your Tunic turn to line up. It's sort of taking back the agency into your own hands and saying, I'll produce the resource when I'm ready. I'll decide when I want to go ahead and give up the card.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big part of it, too. And I also really like some stuff. So I've seen a lot of Lexi lists here and there, and I haven't seen a lot of people play with Premeditate. I've seen it, maybe in a list.
Comes and goes, I think.
But I really like the inclusion here. I really like the value that you get out of the card, especially when combined with all of the big resource cards, right? So instead of going like a straight red line deck, you're kind of going for like this aggro deck that does still have some advantage here.
So it looks like we are resetting to an earlier point in the turn, rewinding to Heatseeker, I believe, after the Heatseeker has hit. So Snapdragons will not be allowed. That means Hamilton is still able to go ahead and play an instant, activate Voltaire. Now the Heatseeker trigger comes, puts a Falcon Wing into the arsenal, and the turn proceeds, this time with Sebastian at 9 life. So, look, there's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Massive misplay from Michael Hamilton.
For sure.
A huge misstep. Day 1, early on in the tournament, maybe still getting those jitters out. And I know Michael Hamilton feels that. He may be a world champion. He still gets nervous for these scenarios. But has the fix, still in an advantageous position. If you're Hamilton, you have to take a deep breath. You have to shake that off.
Yep.
And if you're Sebastian, you need to think, okay, look, I was given basically a miracle here. I need to find a way to go ahead and reassert myself in this game. And this is a pretty nice first step from Sebastian. It is Channel Lake Frigid out of Arsenal, Frostbite coming down along with that cost effect. Just a Falcon Wing here, 3 go again. Not really a huge problem for Sebastian. Could afford to take this damage now, should he want to, no longer at that precarious 2 life total.
So earlier you were talking about cards that would help Icelander get back into this game, and I think Channel Lake Frigid is one of these cards. It is, as a Lexi player, it's one of the cards I do not want to see because it makes everything that you play cost an additional more. So it's not just a Frostbite token. It's like a Frostbite on all of the things that you do, and it could be a huge hamper to what you're doing. But on the flip side, Michael actually set himself up for a really nice turn, getting that go again from Arsenal and just, being able to kind of just pop off with all of the cards here. Depending on what he has in his hand, if he has any sort of buff, that Bolt and Shot can get basically like a free go again here.
It would be great. Hamilton did respond to that Frostbite and the Channel Lake Frigid. with that Volterra activation. It looks like a Sigil of Permafrost going to be committed to defense here.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to see a fusion on the Permafrost. It doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like we're going to see a fusion. So that's just going to be a casual, just 4-block here. But still, 4-block, pretty good, covering that up.
Yep,
Michael's
nice clean block. We're also going to see the Waning Moon activation as well.
Yep, might as well push that damage in. You still got to chip Lexi down. Like you said, get into that critical, 12 life point range.
Yep. Hamilton choosing to activate some Arcane Barrier here. Going to go ahead, put one of those resources through the trench.
Yeah, I think it's a turn where you can definitely leverage the Arcane Barrier. If you're going to be spending a lot of resources anyway and pitching a lot of cards, if you're going to have the floating resources, might as well just pay for that Arcane Barrier to preserve a little bit of your life.
And Hamilton just finding the big resource cards at the right time is able to go ahead and clean that up and gets a fist bump.
I saw a fist bump. I'm a little confused at the fist bump, but perhaps it was enough damage. Perhaps the life totals are off a little bit?
I am unsure, Kel. It is possible that those life totals were off. Certainly caught me by surprise, as you can tell.
Yes,
by
yes.
my response to that fist bump. We'll try and get some clarity exactly what happened down there in the feature match area. I guess there is a scenario where last card in hand couldn't block.